let's just drill down a little bit and just have a little consideration of the heart itself. We referred earlier on to the idea that the cardiac output that is produced, whether it's at rest at 5 litres per minute, right the way up to 25 in an untrained individual at max, is shunted around the body through the process of peripheral resistance and vasodilation and vasoconstriction. But don't forget that the heart itself has to consume oxygen. The heart is an aerobic organ, and so the heart, by definition, consumes some of that cardiac output. So oxygen that is utilised by the heart in itself is abbreviated by the term MVO2. So the MVO2 is the oxygen consumption of the myocardial oxygen uptake. So we know that during exercise, the requirements of the heart is about 4 to 5 times greater than it is at rest. And that's primarily because you've got an increase in heart rate. So as the heart rate goes up, and this is why I was referring earlier on to raising heart rate as being less inefficient as to raising stroke volume, heart rate going up, the idea is that if you imagine the heart as a muscle, which is what it is, you've got lengthening and shortening, and as the heart beats faster, that goes faster and faster and faster. Now that uses energy. In order for that process to occur, that's a very simple analogy in terms of we're using ATP, because we've got lengthening and shortening of the muscle. Well, in order for that to happen, the heart has to be perfused with oxygen. The heart, under normal conditions in a healthy population group, doesn't work anaerobically, it works aerobically. So it has to be perfused with oxygen. So we have to increase the oxygen uptake at the heart, and we get a 4 to 5 increase in metabolic rate. So we get about a 4 to 5 fold increase in the amount of oxygen consumed at the heart. Well, we can actually estimate this. You can actually directly record this using catheterization, but we can actually estimate this by what is called the rate pressure product, which is the product of heart rate and systolic blood pressure. Now, at this point, it's worth stating that it's very hard to record blood pressure during exercise. It's quite difficult to record it at rest, I'm sure some of you are aware, but during exercise, particularly when you've got somebody moving, and of course if they're on a bike, we've got upper body movement, because you're trying to ascertain the blood pressure, it's very difficult to get a constant recording. So it's a very hard test, or a very hard variable to record. So it really comes down to how good the practitioner is and how user-friendly the kit is that you've got to record blood pressure. So we come back to Lawrence Calbert's data, and now we're coming back to this idea of exercise intensity. So here we've got the percentage of the work W max, that's the maximum wattage they achieve during a ramp test. And then we've got the percentage of the cardiac output. So now you can see what percentage of the cardiac output is going to the legs. Remember, it was cycle exercise. What percentage was going to the head and trunk, and what percentage was going to the arms. Now it's fascinating. If you look at rest, about 50% was going to the head and the trunk, and actually only about 20% was going to the arms, and about just under 40% was going to the legs. But as soon as we start to exercise, we get a reverse. The amount going to the arms goes down slightly. It's not significant, although it is significantly different to the other trials. That's what the plus signs refer to. But notice now that what you see is the amount going to the head and trunk falls proportionally to the amount that is going to the legs. And in fact, you see that widening, so less goes to the head and the trunk. We're still perfusing the head and the trunk, but the percentage of the cardiac output goes up, and in fact, it's fairly linear response for the legs. But remember, we saw previously that the cardiac output response was linear per se. But this is a quite nice indication of that idea of redistribution of blood flow, and the idea of peripheral resistance, and certain organs and certain regions of the body being upregulated in blood flow, and certain organs and regions of the body being downregulated in blood flow.